Greetings, cheerful viewers. We are glad to have you here with us today on Vegetarianism, the Noble Way of Living. Today, we are rejoined in our kitchen by a special guest, the spectacular Southwest chef, Jason Wyrick, to continue his series of enticing recipes. Jason is an award-winning chef who was the very first vegan instructor to teach in the prestigious Le Cordon Bleu culinary program. He's won numerous commendations, including PETA's VegCooking.com's October 2005 Chef of the Month, an honor in the company of esteemed chefs like Ann Gentry from Real Foods Daily and Eric Tucker from Millennium Restaurant, as well as being featured by Arizona's largest newspaper, the Arizona Republic, and U.S. national television station, ABC. Jason has been sought after by distinguished corporations and organizations like Google and PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, for his delicious vegan catering. His recipes have been known to sway even the most discerning critics, vegetarians and non-vegetarians alike. As a former diabetic, Jason sought out veganism for both dietary and palate-pleasing reasons, and his recipes are created in the same manner, to prove that you do not have to compromise scrumptious tastes to be healthy. These days, Jason operates Arizona's only vegan catering company and shares his time instructing vegan cooking courses. Today, Chef Jason is going to get creative with rice and prepare for us two Southwest dishes that will surely please.
And we are back here again with Chef Jason Wyrick, executive vegan chef, and he is going to be sharing with us a dish with rice called...
This is a smoked paprika rice dish. It's got jasmine rice, smoked Spanish paprika, of course some of that smoked salt, some cumin, got some oil-cured black olives here, lime, garlic. All these wonderful flavors are going to come together to make this really, really nice succulent rice that's going to go along with basically any sort of Mexican dish. So this pot is about half full of water, and it's only got about maybe a cup of rice that's going to go in there. This is a long grain brown jasmine rice. The long grain is important for this because in order for the rice to stay fluffy, the starches in there don't need to come out too much, so long grain rice tends to not have as much sticky starch as the short grain rice. The other way to keep it fluffy is to boil it in a lot of water. Typically you get a pot, 2 parts water, 1 part rice. It cooks down into this big rice mash. You don't get that wonderful fluffy rice that you get in like Indian cuisine, Spanish cuisine, all these other cuisines. I'm gonna go at least 4 parts water to 1 part rice. So that way the grains kind of float around in the water instead of get compressed in it. The other way to create that fluffy rice is to use acid, because that starch in a rice is a base. So when you add an acid to the water, it's going to cut into that starchy base. And that's also going to help keep the rice grains separate. To get that really, really nice texture, it needs to boil for about 10 minutes to absorb a bunch of water, and then it's going to go in the oven, finish off. It's going to have a really nice crispy top to it.
Sounds delicious.
While it's sitting here boiling, there are just a couple things that really need to be prepared for the recipe. One is a clove of garlic. Use a garlic press because I find that a lot of the oils get stuck onto the garlic press instead of in the garlic, and those oils in the garlic are one of the huge flavor carriers. The other thing I'm going to do is get these oil-cured black olives cut up. I like using the black olives in this dish because they just create such an intense flavor sensation when you bite into the rice, and then there's just this wonderful shot of black olive. And I think they also look really nice against the final red color of the rice. Sometimes olives, whether or not they're oil cured, have been soaked in milk. So if you're vegan like I am and you don't want to have any sort of dairy products, you'll want to pay attention to whether or not the olives have been cured with dairy. Usually it's the lactic acid from dairy that's used to soften up the olives. So the rice is boiled for about 10 minutes and all the little rice grains have sucked up that water. Just strain away the excess water. The colander. You don't have to get rid of all that water because it's going to go in a baking dish. Right here I've got smoked Spanish paprika. They've been dried and smoked and then ground up into a really nice powder. If you don't have access to smoked paprika, it's okay if you use regular paprika. Just throw in a little bit of extra chili powder, a few more extra olives, and some extra garlic, because without that smoky paprika, it's going to lose some flavor, so that needs to be made up with something else. Smoked salt is going to go with that. Be a little light on the salt because black olives tend to be very, very salty, especially when they've been cured in oil. I'm going to put a pinch cumin on there. The garlic and all those beautiful olives. With the final spritz of lime to go on there. Just that brightens up all the flavors in the dish. Take my knife and mix all that up. I also put a little bit of oil on there to make sure that the rice stays fully hydrated while it's in the oven. And stir that around to trap the steam in the baking dish. Just got to cover it with foil. If you don't do this, you'll have rice that is completely cooked on the bottom of the baking dish and then this really hard crispy layer on top. And then this is going to bake at 20 minutes, anywhere from 300 to 325 degrees.
Okay, so we'll let that bake and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Vegetarianism, the Noble Way of Living on Supreme Master Television with executive vegan chef Jason Myrick, and he is going to share with us a special rice dessert.
This is a rice dessert with coconut milk and sweet agave nectar, cascabel chilies, some lemon, some cinnamon, some wonderful vanilla bean. The nice name for it is arroz con cassia y cascabel. That's the nice Spanish way of saying it. It's amazing how language can transform a dish into something that sounds fancy and gourmet and something you get in a restaurant. Completely the same dish, but the way you tell guests the name of the dish matters. I've got some water that's just starting to boil. And then I'm going to cut this vanilla bean open right down the center. You can use vanilla extract in this. I would say about a teaspoon of vanilla extract in this. It's going to be a very, very strong flavor, but this dish needs strong flavors because there's chili pepper in it, and all these flavors need to compete with that chili pepper. Just pop this open and use my knife to scrape these little tiny bean pods out, because that's where most of the flavor resides. And actually, this isn't really even a bean. This is part of a flour. Don't worry if you can't get it all scraped out, because the entire vanilla bean is going to go in the water. Later on, after the rice is done, I'm going to add some lemon zest to that. The zest is this outer part of the lemon. It's got this wonderful popping citrus flavor that's going to go in there. Because I want that lemon to also infuse the rice just a little bit, I'm going to put a splash of lemon juice in the water. Now with this recipe, generally the ratio is going to be about 3 parts liquid to 1 part rice, because it's going to cook uncovered, and so that liquid is going to reduce and reduce and reduce until it intensifies all those flavors. If you find that the rice is dehydrating, there's not enough liquid in the pot, just add a little bit more water. Got about a cup of rice in there, about a cup of water, and about 2 cups of this really, really nice coconut milk. And you want to make sure that you get a really nice quality coconut milk, because if you don't, the coconut milk is too watery and there's really not a lot of coconut in there. I'm also going to put in this cinnamon. So in go the cinnamon sticks. We're also going to put in some of this really, really nice sweet agave nectar, about a tablespoon, although that's just an estimate for the recipe.
And agave nectar, where does that come from?
From the agave plant, actually, which is pretty neat. It's got this wonderful sweet nectar in it, and it gets reduced and pulled out, and you've got this great sweetener that tastes pretty much like honey, and it's vegan. For a sweetener, it's very diabetic friendly because it's low on the glycemic index. Now, when you're doing dessert, one thing that always enhances the flavor of sugars is just a pinch of salt. So if you see recipes for cakes, brownies, sauces, anything like that, a pinch of salt will make the dessert taste even sweeter. This is a mineralized sea salt, so it's got just a bunch of other minerals added in there. If you're going to use some of the more delicate salts like Celtic sea salt, you want to add it in after the dish is done. You know, use something that's a good quality like this mineralized salt, but is a little more heat resistant. So now this is just going to simmer, and before it's done, we're going to throw in one of these cascabel chilies. And these can range from mild to very hot, so you'll want to be careful with these. So the longer it cooks, the spicier this dish gets. And really you just want that nice subtle spiciness and that subtle chili flavor to it. You can experiment with any chili with this dish. Okay. I've done ancho chilies, I've done guajillo chilies, they all turn out well. So this is just going to simmer. It's going to take about 30 minutes for the rice to cook, for the sauce to reduce around it. About halfway through, like I said, we'll add those cascabel chilies in there. Once it's done, I'm going to take it off, put it in the dessert dish, put the little cinnamon stick on top, a little cascabel chili on top, make a little line of sweet agave nectar on there, put the lemon zest on, and have a ready-made gourmet dessert.
Sounds delicious. Now for the most exciting part, we get to see the whole meal prepared and ready to serve.
Here we've got the smoked Spanish paprika rice with those nice black olives, that beautiful Spanish paprika in there. Here we've got our wonderful dessert, the arroz con cassia y cascabel, or the rice with cinnamon and cascabel chilies.
Wonderful. So now we get to enjoy the bounty of your flavors. And I'd just like to thank you again, Chef Jason, for being here with us today on Supreme Master Television, Vegetarianism, the Noble Way of Living, and also to our viewers for joining us today. Many blessings to all. Thank you.